Good morning, everybody. Today I am here to discuss about causes and impact of disasters. As we all know, causes of disasters are usually preventable, though we can classify disasters as man-made and natural, but we can say at some extent human beings are directly or indirectly involved in natural disasters as well. What I mean is the greed of human beings that they use and further misuse the natural resources and harm it and wastage of it leads the nature to give a alarm or warning sign in the form of various disasters. Let's move on to quick look on causes of disasters. I'm just explaining it very briefly as we all are familiar with it all. First one, causes of natural disasters. First is global warming. It's the increasing concentration of carbon dioxide in Earth's surface and it leads to increasing temperature of oceans which in turn cause to hurricanes, tropical storms on the one hand and the other hand it can cause to increasing probability of drought. Second, natural activities in the Earth's crust. Natural process on Earth crust lead to disasters like earthquakes. Third, tectonic movement. We all know Earth is not made up of a single surface, and the movement of these tectonic plates leads to disasters like tsunami, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, etc. Fourth, moon activity. Scientists find out that the moon has a strong influence on the natural processes on Earth and further leads to natural disasters as well. Example, earthquakes. Fifth, mining. It's not certain whether mining can cause natural disasters, but some scientists blame it for the reason for landslides, soil and mountain erosion as well. 6. Deforestation. It can contribute to natural disasters like flood and drought. As we all know, foresters balance and hold back natural groundwater, and thus by deforestation, the ground is no longer covered and the probability of flood and drought increases dramatically. Seventh, soil erosion. Soil erosion causes landslide, which in turn cause damage to nature as well as human beings. Eighth, air pressure. Studies tell us that there is a connection between the air pressure and various disasters like hurricanes, heavy rains, and thunderstorms. Next one is seismic activity. It tells us that seismic activity inside Earth crust cause disaster, mainly earthquakes, which lead to destruction of livelihood and death of many. And pollution of all sorts can lead to natural disasters of several sorts. And the final one is ocean current. Change in ocean currents can lead to change in the ocean temperature, which in turn can harm or kill aquatic species. Now move on to causes of man-made disasters. There are many causes of man-made disasters. Some man-made disasters like war, terrorism, crime, etc. are usually human intent. Some disasters caused by negligence or carelessness, lack of fund, proper intervention, inspection, and education. Sometimes man-made disasters are also be unintentional in the form of chemical disasters caused by industrial accidents. This is a pie chart, uh, which tell us more about the causes of man-made disasters as a whole. Move on to impacts of disaster. Whether the disaster is natural or man-made, its adverse effects on society is very terrible. Disasters not only cause loss of life, property, but often lead to extinction of animals, the cropping lands, good yielding lands converted into barren lands, and after effect of disasters are always the ailments, serious ailments which are very terrible. Move on to economic impacts of disasters include loss of life, loss of livelihood, unemployment, loss of property, loss of crops, loss of public infrastructure. Displaced population. One of the most immediate effect of natural disaster is population displacement. Due to natural disasters or any other disasters, people often lost their belongings, including houses and livelihood. As a result, they migrate to some other areas. Food scarcity. As a disaster hit, food often becomes scarce. Thousands of people around the world go hungry as a result of destroyed crops and loss of agricultural supplies, whether it happens in the storm or gradually in a drought. As a result of disasters, food prices increases and people can not be able to afford food and there were severe malnutrition or worse. Water scarcity. Due to natural disasters, rivers and lakes may be polluted and the water supply will be decreased. As scarcity of water supply will be severe when drought hits, farmers will no longer be able to raise enough crops, and moreover, even the drinking water is scarce and people thus migrates. Physical impacts of disasters include injuries, death, physical disability, burns, epidemic, miscarriage, loss of sleep, appetite, and reproductive health. Health risk. It is the second most damaging effects of disasters. Severe flooding can cause waterborne diseases due to stagnant water, and it often leads to introduction of new diseases or vectors. Malnutrition increases the susceptibility to diseases. If we if the place where disaster hit does not get any immediate help or emergency relief, the death toll can rise even after the immediate danger has passed. Psychological impacts of disasters include distress, hatred, dependence, a feeling of insecurity, grief, confusion, post traumatic stress, helplessness, hopelessness, etc. Post traumatic stress disorder is the immediate after effect of as a certain disaster hit. Grief and loss. It's people feel grief and loss of their loved ones. Fear, anxiety, and insecurity. People continue to feel anxious, frightened, and unsafe for weeks after the disaster, despite being physically safe. Confusion and guilty. People always feel guilty for not able to save their loved ones or prevent they were not able to prevent the disaster. Effect of oil spills. Let's move on to certain disasters and their impacts on the environment. Wildlife is destroyed due to this oil spill. Wildlife, including plants and animals, pollution, and this is very expensive to clean it out, and this lead to very hard to fishing people and fisheries department and their life. Effects of Chernobyl explosion. It's one of the worst disaster that took place. As we all know, it's very much terrible. Chernobyl is a Chernobyl accident. The nuclear power plant has four reactors. Out of the four, one reactor on during examination exploded and 8 tons of fuel are ejected into the atmosphere like plutonium, graphite moderator, iodine 131, cesium 137. As an immediate effect of this, 31 people are died and 3 lakh people are died afterwards and 20 million people are exposed to high radioactivity. This can cause a loss of 40 billion. The causes, the after effects of Chernobyl explosion in the form of diseases include cancer, radiation poisoning, birth defects, etc. Another worst disaster ever took place is Bhopal gas tragedy. It was a gas leak accident on the night of 2-3 December 1984 in the in one of the well-known pesticide plant in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. About 40 tons of dangerous methyl isocyanates leaked, and this, as the case studies tell us that about 15,000 to 20,000 people were died. Causes of disaster include workers' sabotage and corporate negligence. They did not take proper safety measures. Short term impacts include coughing, pain, stomach pain, vomiting, etc. And long term effects include post traumatic stress disorder PTSD and thyroid kidney failure and other respiratory tract diseases, cancer, immune deficiency, chronic bronchitis, chronic anxieties, etc. Okay, I would like to conclude the topic by saying a quote of William Blake that hindsight is a wonderful thing, but foresight is better, especially when it comes to saving life or some pain.